According to a new report, Season 2 of Ahsoka is bringing a bigger spotlight to Anakin, and maybe a return to the Clone Wars? And this prequel trilogy concept art holds a dark alternative for Padme. Welcome to Star Wars Uplink, your place for everything Star Wars gaming, the TV shows, and the movies. Let's jump in.
Just you reconsider playing that message for him.
The first season of Ahsoka started something new. It went off in a different direction for a beloved character, Ahsoka. Mm-hmm. It had some learning moments, I think, for the whole team in terms of how to structure the story. I have some qualms with the actual structure and what is accomplished, because if you really look at it, not much actually gets accomplished in Ahsoka Season 1. It starts with this group of people on this planet and this group of people on this planet. And then by the end of the whole season, that switches.
Yeah.
That is ultimately. Lots of explosions happen in between those moments, but condense it down to these people are now stuck on this planet while these people are over here and they're stuck. Oh no.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Sorry if you haven't watched Ahsoka. But Ahsoka Season 2 has the potential to take a lot of these learnings that they had with Season 1 and go in a very different new direction. There are a lot of threads that they still need to address, which we'll get into. But there is a new report and rumor tied together here. So the report is Hayden Christensen has joined the cast for Ahsoka Season 2. The rumor is he's going to have a bigger role in the story. And I want to talk about basically what this means for Ahsoka Season 2, what this means for our characters, and what directions they could go for Ahsoka Season 2.
Mm-hmm. So Hayden Christensen in the first season, I mean, they were really kind of showcasing this master and apprentice kind of throughout the whole first season. And I think that they're going to try and continue that on the second one.
Yes.
It would seem, especially if they're bringing him in an even bigger role. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah.
The thing that Ahsoka did really well was showcase how Ahsoka still has a lot in her past that she needs to overcome. There's almost this fear and sadness and guilt around Anakin's turn to the dark side from Ahsoka's perspective. Mm-hmm. I think that was something that they did really well of portraying, that Ahsoka had some part of her that blamed herself for Anakin's fall to the dark side, because she left the Order, and then very soon after, Anakin fell. Mm-hmm. And that was, I would assume, pretty impactful. Someone that you grew up with, that trained you. And then also, as a second layer, what does it look like for someone that you cared for deeply, respected deeply, to go to the dark side? The thing that you were taught never to do. Mm-hmm. What does that mean for your training? Were you also taught those things?
Right.
That is a key part of the Anakin and Ahsoka story.
Yeah, and you do see that a lot in the first season about like that struggle, that fear, that those seeds, whatever they were, could be planted in her about the going to the dark side, and then that fear also continuing on into Sabine to be like, she is such a rebel. Like, what if I'm going to make her into some bad seed?
Yes. And you see that fear with her approach to Sabine. Mm-hmm. A lot of it was like stepping away, not knowing how to train her, not knowing the ways that you need to specifically do that. And also this thought in the back of your head of like, is this actually going to work too? Because she's a Mandalorian.
Yep. According
to Hu Yang, she is the least sensitive to the Force that he's ever seen before.
Yeah.
Of all of the Jedi he has worked with, she's the least powerful in the Force.
Oof.
So there's a lot of these various stories and pieces that Ahsoka and Sabine, and then subsequently like mirrored in the relationship between Anakin and Ahsoka. Mm-hmm. That's there, that they should probably play around with.
Right.
I do wonder, though, because the whole story for Ahsoka at this point is she's reached this Gandalf the White moment. She's gone through this training, this realization. She had the choice to either die or get reborn and really just go through and become Gandalf the White. Ooh. But why would Anakin come back in this realm to continue that story? Because for all intents and purposes, Anakin and Ahsoka, they had their growth. What more can Anakin teach her? Because she is now trying to be the teacher and master that he never really got to the point to be.
It's definitely a strange predicament to think of Anakin in a bigger role on this planet in this situation where now it's literally just Ahsoka and Sabine figuring each other out, man. Like now we get to the meat of it, I should hope.
Yeah.
So yeah, really interesting dynamic that's gonna happen here. I hope, I'm gonna put my 2 cents into this. I hope it has something to do with the planet.
Yeah.
Yes, I hope that this planet is, okay, here's a little rant. So, why is it that, like, whenever we get to a new planet or we get to this one place, there's someone, usually a bad guy, who's like, well, bad guy, I'll use air quotes for that.
Yeah.
Balin...
He toes the line.
Yeah. He was all like, oh man, this planet is powerful. Don't you feel it? Don't you feel the pull to something?
Yeah.
And we're all like, okay, cool. And everyone else is just like, woo, we're on this planet. Let's go camping. Let's go find our buddy. Like, no one else is feeling it. Except for Balin. I just find it a little annoying that these people who are supposedly very strong in the Force
are like, I don't feel anything.
Anyway, hopefully someone gets a little inkling of, there's some strong Force stuff going on here.
And maybe that's the direction they go. So I wanted to go a couple different directions. One way that they could really piece Anakin into this is through the Force Ghost route, which we kind of on the fence for. There's benefits to him as a character coming back and almost having like this extra layer of training for Sabine. Maybe Sabine's the only person that he's shown to, because Ahsoka has gone through all the training that she needs in terms of like the realization, overcoming her demons. Maybe it's time for the next step and the next kind of like iteration for this to be Anakin passing on some of the knowledge that Sabine needs that Ahsoka can't really give her. Maybe that's part of it. Another path they could go in is this flashback route, almost live-action Clone Wars, because that was a big part of Season 1. Season 1, like, honestly, those were the best moments. The nostalgia for Hayden Christensen back is great. The impact that they did with him as a character, I think, was awesome. But I do wonder if it makes sense for Anakin to have this bigger role for Ahsoka Season 2 when it takes place so much longer and further away into the future than he was ever there. And also, it's after the death of Darth Vader. So, like, what is the real purpose here? Is it just to turn it into Clone Wars live action?
Right.
Or are we actually going to get into the meat of this master and apprentice dynamic that was set up in Season 1 that kind of needs to be taken and explored through this planet and the Force and the different things that they experience here?
Something I didn't consider would be Sabine's relationship to a Force ghost that could be like AKA Anakin.
Yes.
That would be very interesting if Anakin and Ahsoka are kind of like done. That would be nice. They've had some closure. They've had clarity. Ahsoka's had her moment with her old master.
Yeah.
She's healing from it. She's moving on. But what if Sabine was the one getting sort of trained?
Yeah.
Almost going behind Ahsoka's back with Anakin. Imagine the conflict that Ahsoka would feel to be like, whoa.
Wait a second. I thought I was supposed to be teaching you.
Yeah. But also, is he going to put those bad seeds in you too?
Yes.
Ooh.
But it makes sense for Sabine's character because she is so much about going against the grain, like being kind of the outcast and going in this space that she makes her own. And maybe the reason that Anakin is showing up in the first place is the planet itself, being this hub for the Force, like being this location that Baylan Skoll knows has a huge impact and has this huge resonance with the Force. What if Sabine and Anakin and that route is some of the other side of it? What if she starts to notice these things through this experience with Anakin?
I think it's easy to assume that's going to be a Force ghost because we've already kind of seen him as a Force ghost on this planet. But there's definitely other options. Maybe this planet has another portal to the world between worlds.
Yes.
And then maybe Sabine has one of these moments or something. Or maybe she's using it in a certain way. Who knows? What other ways could we say he shows up?
I mean, flashbacks are kind of like the most realistic one, honestly. But there's a lot of potential there. I'm torn about it because I would love to see Hayden Christensen as Anakin again. So great when he came back. On the other hand, I'm not so sure on the place that he has with the story. So they really have to make it make sense for him to return in this bigger role for me to be like, okay, yeah, he can come back. But on the other hand, I would just want to see more Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker, so I'm torn.
Yep. It's like we've come so far, and finally we're actually getting like this really good Anakin in Hayden Christensen. And it's like we don't want to say don't come back, but also it's like,
does it make sense?
But where do you fit in the story?
Is this a Book of Boba Fett situation where Mandalorian comes in and makes it the Mandalorian for a little bit? Does Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker come in and make it the Clone Wars again? I think that's the real struggle that they have to get here.
Right.
Dave Filoni is still a very green live action writer. He's very good in animated. He's shown himself to be very good with storytelling, but also in animated, it's 7 seasons with 26 episodes or what have you.
Yeah.
Ahsoka had 8. And it felt really slow because not a lot was happening. A lot was happening on screen, but not a lot was happening in the story. So there's a lot of potential for him to learn from those mistakes, missteps, or even just kind of like little quirks and just the process of doing, you're going to learn something. So I think there's a lot of potential for him in the second season to take the learnings from season 1 and go forward and do something really impactful as a story.
There's definitely a fine line that we're towing here with the Clone Wars and keeping it the Ahsoka show, you know?
Yes.
So, yeah, bringing Hayden in a bigger way just gets us that much closer to the Clone Wars. And it's, I have hope, but I am also tentatively skeptical.
Yes. There's a lot of potential with that story, but do they have it in you to make it epic? Do they have it in them to show that restraint, to not just go full nostalgia bait? I'm not sure.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. Talking about nostalgia bait, talking about Clone Wars, talking about the prequel trilogy, though, there is this theory going around this piece of concept art that came out, and it shows Anakin, just a little bit of Anakin, the red lightsaber and the robot hand, and then across from him is Padme with a little dagger. The theory here is that maybe originally Padme was planning on defending herself against Anakin or attacking Anakin. That is the theory that I want to talk about. Like, what does it look like for the character of Padme to go into the situation with a dagger hidden in view? What does it look like for that character? Does it actually give her control over her destiny? Or does it not feel quite right?
There is definitely a sore spot with Padme as a character and just being kind of this wet noodle when it came to the end of the third.
There's a lot of context around how it's not really this, but a lot of people's read on Padme's death in Revenge of the Sith is that she died from sadness.
Yes, died of a broken heart. I mean, was she strangled? Yes.
But she lost the will to live.
Yeah,
that's the specific line that they say.
Yes.
Which is kind of problematic from like a perspective of like, oh, this female character just kind of gave up.
Especially with 2 kids on the way.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure. But this new theory, this proposed like original story, is that she actually takes it into her own hands and has a place in her destiny in terms of Anakin's pushed so far into this dark side perspective. He's steeped in the Sith at this point. That he murdered children, which Padme found out about, and then to confirm went to talk to Anakin. But also, if she had the dagger, what was she planning to do with it?
Right.
She's a person of strong beliefs.
For sure.
And willing to stand for them.
Absolutely. And especially if you've read the books or even in the Clone Wars and things like that, she's not afraid to get her hands dirty.
No, not at all.
She will jump in the fray.
Yes.
Which we don't really ever see in the canon movies, but
except maybe Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
She kicked some butt there.
She did, and it was kind of her choice too. But it felt a little bit more like situational, where it was like, I'm kind of fighting for my life here, and not necessarily out of a choice. Like she wasn't necessarily planning to be in a war.
Yeah. Just so happened she stumbled upon one.
Just so happens they got caught.
Yeah.
I'm torn with this, and I'm a little surprised by it. So in a lot of ways, I can actually see this playing out, where she confronts him and is like, hey, what happened? Who are you?
Yeah.
You did this? You are not my husband anymore. Like, I think the place where I'm torn, though, is if she would actually be like, you need to die for this crime. Like,
I can see defending herself. I don't know if I can quite get on board with this belief that she would try to kill Anakin.
Yeah.
I'm 100% believe that she could do it.
I could see her even threatening.
Yes.
Being like, in a moment of many emotions and intensity, and that she would pull out a dagger and be like, I can't believe you, sort of thing.
Yeah. But like, what's the reality here?
Yeah.
I also think there's this interesting dynamic, though, that if they went this direction, that Anakin would see how far he has pushed the one person that he's trying to, like, he's doing all of this for to save her. She is so fearful of him that she would bring a dagger to defend herself.
Yeah.
That's how far he's pushed her away. And I think that's where it gets really interesting. Maybe that's just the emotion that they're trying to portray with this piece of concept art. But I just love this idea that that's how far Anakin had gone to the dark side. He got lost in the sauce.
Very much so. I also like the idea of this escalation of that. And like, if he truly was the reason that she died, like, to give it
more directly.
Yes, to give a real true understanding and like a real true like, I don't know if he slashes her or something, like something to happen where he killed her, and it's not just I've given up and the other half of my life is over, and what was me? I'm just dying in this hospital bed now. Like, it would be really nice to have seen this kind of emergency situation of like, it just escalated really too far,
too quickly.
A lot of emotions were going on here, and maybe she does egg it on, but I mean, like, I don't know. It would have been a better situation if we could have seen by his hand that he was the one who killed her.
Yes. More directly.
Yeah.
I think it's a really fun story to play around with, and I think it's fascinating. I don't necessarily think it fits her full character, but I love the idea that she'd have more
Agency,
yes, in her path, in her future, in her destiny, really.
Yeah.
I think that's what I really appreciate around something like this.
Yeah. It gives her a strength that I don't think we really see much of, especially in the canon trilogies. For her to stand up for all these, for all the people that died by his hands, and to be willing to sacrifice, I guess, for that as well, like for all the things that is gone now.
Yeah.
And for the person that he was, it would have been a much nicer ending for her, I think.
Yes. Yeah. But let us know your thoughts in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube. Would love to hear your thoughts on, one, would you want to see a live action Clone Wars spin on Ahsoka Season 2? And do you subscribe to this theory around the original path for Padme being a little bit darker than we probably would have all expected? Let us know in the comments below or contact at uplinkpodcast.com. As always, you can listen to this podcast wherever you find podcasts. And thank you for listening. May the Force be with you.